Okay, Baruch Hashem. Erev Shabbat Shalom, Parashat Chukat. So, as an introduction, Rav El Karif in his Sefer Sas B'Matecha, he starts off by saying that one time there was a great Admor. The Admor's name was the Rabbi from Ostrovca, probably somewhere in Russia. Okay. So anyway, one time someone came up to him and they asked him a question, which I'm sure many people have this question. They said that, Rabbi, I want to open up a business, and I have two choices where to open up the business. Choice A were to open it up in the main marketplace area. You know, all the people are there. You know, you have thousands of people going through the streets every single day. But the problem is that it's very expensive and it's very small. You know, if you wanna open up a jewelry store on 47th Street, so it's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you $10,000 a month for rent, and it's 4x4. It's very, very, very small. Because that's option A. Now, option B, he told him, he said, I can open up somewhere else. It doesn't have to be in the main town square. I can open up somewhere, you know, somewhere random, and it'll cost me $2,000 a month, but I'll have 20,000 square feet. You know? So the question was, where does he do it? Does he open up specifically a store on Central Avenue, where it's going to be small but expensive, or does he open up somewhere on who knows where, on West Broadway, where there's barely any stores, but at least it'll be much bigger, the rent will be much cheaper? Solid question. I'm sure many people have that question in their lifetime. Where to open up a business? In the place that's popular, or the place was not as popular, but the rent will definitely be cheaper? So the Rabbi answered him, he goes, well, I'll tell you, I can learn it out from this week's Parashat Chukat. Why? How do you learn it out? He says that we know, and I'll read the words inside in a second. He said that we know that in this week's parasha we had the death of two tzaddikim. Miriam HaNeviah, she passed away, and also Aaron HaKohen. These two people, they passed away. Because we lost Miriam, we also lost the Be'er. We lost the well of water that followed the Jewish people around the Midbar for 40 years. That well was B'zchut Miriam. So he comes over and he says, Amar lo Hadmon, Kaduk v'Rashash Bereis HaZechut leBe'er Mayim B'zchut Miriam. Like I just told you, they were zochet to the Miriam, the Be'er, because of Miriam. That once she passed away, there was no more water left for the Eidah, no more water left for the congregation. Rashi says that Mikan Shekol 40 Shana Haya Lehem Be'er B'zchut Miriam. All the 40 years they were traveling in the desert, they had this water in the zchut of Miriam and Neviah. The Gemara also says Shlosha Parnasim Tovim Amdu L'Yisrael. There was 3 Parnasim. What is that? 3 people who provided for the Jewish people. That was Moshe, that was Aaron, and that was Miriam. And the Gemara explains that Moshe Rabbeinu, he brought the zchut of Moshe Rabbeinu, he brought the man. B'zchut Miriam and Neviah, like I just told you, she brought the bear, she brought the water. And b'zchut Aaron HaKohen, he brought the Ananei HaKavod. And the moment these people passed away, therefore that kind of got rid of these 3 zechuyot. The Gemara says, Shlosha Parnasim Tovim Amdu L'Yisrael. Elohim, Moshe, Aaron, Miriam. And they brought 3 gifts because of them. Elohim, Be'er, Ve'anan, Ve'man. Be'er b'zchut Miriam, Amud Anan b'zchut Aaron, Ma b'zchut Moshe. That's what the Gemara Tanit says. But then says the Admor that we have a contradiction. Why? Because the Gemara Tanit says that these 3 things were b'zchut, these 3 tzaddikim. However, the Gemara Baba Metzia says no. The reason why we had Man, Be'er, and Ananei HaKavod and Midbar was not because of Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Rather, it was because of Avraham Avinu. Because Avraham Avinu gave, when they had the angels, when the angels came to visit him, what happened? He gave these angels, he was tremendous in his Hachnasat Orchim, because he was so good in having guests. That's why we had the zechut of these 3 things. The Gemara says, Bava Metzia Daf Ayin, Daf Pei Bet, or Pei Vav, Shlechol HaMatorot Elu Zechol Yisrael B'zchut Hachnasat Orchim Shel Avraham Avinu. B'zchal Shlosha Zechut Shlosha. Because he did 3 things, we also got 3 things. What are the 3 things that he did? The Gemara says, B'zchar Chama V'Chalav. Because he gave them the butter and the milk, Zechut Leman. He also gave them the man. Also, I'll make a comparison. Just like the Chema and the Chalav are white, so too the man was also white, as we know. So therefore, it's a comparison between the 2. B'zchut ve'omed alehem, because he stood above them and he was serving them whatever meat they wanted. Zechut amudei anan. Just like you stood over the guests, so too the clouds are going to stand over us. And b'zchar yukachna me'at mayim, because he gave them yukachna me'at mayim, take a little bit of water. So therefore we had the zechut of the Be'er, who also quenched the thirst of Am Yisrael in the entire years of the Midbar. Zechut Be'er She Miriam. So which one is it? Is it the zechut of Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, or is it because of Avraham Avinu? You understand the contradiction? So he says, in Kain, we have to understand. Hayim kiblu otam b'zechut Avraham, or b'zechut Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Which one is it? Is it Aaron or is it Abraham Avinu. He says, the commentators, they explain, until we worship the Egel, until that point, the Jewish people never really sinned. At that point, before we sinned, we could really truly be called the children of who? Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov. Because we have a connection with them, and then when that connection wasn't broken, the fact that we did a tremendous sin. However, after we sinned, says the Rabbi, because we didn't sin yet, we were zochet to these things, b'zchut of who? Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Until we rebelled against God with the Egel, we needed a new zechut. We need to generate a new zechut. Once we broke the relationship between us and our forefathers, Hashem said, I need to generate a new zechut to give them these 3 matanot in the midbar. Therefore, now that I have to generate a new zechut, who's the new zechut going to be to bring these 3 matanot? Now we have to know a new zechut, and that is between the 3 leaders of our generation. Says the Rabbi, now all this applies in the desert. Why? Because when a person is inside the desert, he needs zuchuyot in order to give him sustenance. Why? Because in the desert, it's a very unlikely place. It's not natural. In a very unlikely place, a person might come to get sustenance. There's no food, there's no water, there's only heat, there's no rain, everything's dry, there's no makom yeshuv, there's no hotels, no bathrooms, there's no nothing. So therefore, if a person's getting sustenance in the midbar, where's it coming from? It's solely coming from his zechut. That's how he wants to learn. However, once they come to Eretz Yisrael, once they become to Makom HaYishuv, now God says, I don't have to give them parnasah, I don't have to give them sustenance through zechuyot. Rather, I can give it to them through derech hateva. Now I can give it to them naturally. Therefore says Rabbi El Karif, he says, you cannot reach sustenance in the midbar naturally. That's why they need special zechut in the midbar. When they got to Eretz Yisrael, pasku matanot eila. We know we lost everything. We lost man, we lost Be'er, we lost Ananei HaKavod. Why? Mishum shebamakom yishuv, in a place where there is settlement. God always gives, God always provides in a natural type of way. You don't need special zechut. Says the Rabbi, not only does this apply when it comes to physical, it also applies to spiritual, which is the question I always had. Rabbi, let me ask you a question. What is it better? Is it better to learn by yourself, or is it better to learn in a group? See, I know that's the answer, but I always have had a very hard time with that. Why? Because when I'm learning by myself, I can focus on what I'm learning. Sometimes if you're learning in a group, you can space out, you can fall asleep, you can maybe not focus. But if you're learning by yourself, you're focused on yourself. Maybe it's better. Not only that, but also traveling. You have to travel to the Beit Midrash. You have to find parking. It's hot outside. It's raining outside. It might deter you from getting to the Beit Midrash. But a person knows in himself, no, I could just sit down at my dining room table and I can focus on learning. Maybe that's better. Says the Rabbi, no, absolutely not. Because when you learn in a group that's derech hateva. Derech hateva, when you learn in a group, when people are in a group, they sharpen each other. And therefore you have to, it's not disrespectful to fall asleep in front of the rabbi, or disrespectful to fall asleep in front of Yakruta. So therefore, when you learn in a group, that's called derech hateva. However, when a person is learning by himself, he says you need special zechut to learn by yourself. It's not so simple that when you're learning by yourself, maybe God won't give you the siyata d'shmaya. And who says you have the zechut bichlal to learn? And therefore, if you're learning by yourself, God says, well, this guy's nothing special, therefore I'm not going to give him the zechut to understand what he's learning. However, when he's learning in a group, that's derech teva. Just like when it comes to making money inside the makom hayishuv in the settlement, right? It's derech hateva. You could just make that happen by praying. Derech hateva. However, if you're in the midbar, you need special zechuyot. So that when it comes to learning in a group, it's derech hateva. And therefore, just by praying and focusing, already you can understand what's going on. However, when you're learning by yourself, says the Rabbi, that's like learning in the desert. In the desert, you need special zechuyot. And if you don't have the zechut, you're not going to understand what you're learning. Therefore, it's a tremendous item to learn in a group, or with a chavruta, rather learning just by yourself. Because who says Hashem will give you the special siyata d'shmaya? Based on this, says the Rabbi, now the answer to my question. What was the original question, Roman? What's the original question?
Where to open the store?
Where to open the store? Is it better to open the store b'makom hayishuv, in the settlement area, or is it better to open up in the maybe not so well attended in the populous area. So according to this, we have a question. We have the answer to the question because he said in the midbar, what did the Jewish people need? They needed special zechut. They needed special zechut. Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Moshe, Miriam, and Aaron in order to get the ananei hakavod, in order to get the ber miyam, in order to get the man. And without the zechut, they wouldn't have gotten nothing. However, once they get to Eretz Yisrael, they don't need all those things because God can provide the parnasah b'derech hateva. Rabbi, well, now I have an answer to my question. You asked me, is it better to go b'makom ha'yishuv in the settled area or open up a store somewhere in the desert? Now, exactly, that's what he says. Now we have an answer to your question. If you open up a store in the middle of the city, you don't need special status or special zechuyot in order to get parnasah. Because that's a place where to make parnasah. Imagine that, Rabotai. Imagine just, let's take 47th Street as a great example. You have thousands of jewelers in a 1 block radius, and somehow, Baruch Hashem, they're all making parnasah. But the same guy that wants to open up maybe in his hometown so he doesn't travel to the city, so I'll sell more local. That guy's not doing as well as he would. Why? Going to 47th Street. What's Pishat? Pishat is because when you go to Makom HaYishuv, that's Derech Teva. And as long as you pray, Hashem says, by you praying, that's enough for me to give you your parnasah b'derech Teva. However, once you go somewhere else, once you go on a far out place, you need special zechuyot to get parnasah over there. And who says you have the zechuyot in order to get it? Says the Rabbi, beautiful. When the people buying are dull, it's not so prevalent for you to have customers over there. And what happens? Who says if you're going to have the same parnasah? Therefore, it's our job always to try to get things b'derech hateva. And always try to get what you need, always b'derech hateva, and don't rely on your zechut, because who says you have zechuyot? Then he comes over and he tells a fascinating story. He said one time, he says there was a truck driver living in Yerushalayim. And he says the truck driver wasn't so religious. He put on tefillin once in a while because he prayed once in a while because he kept Shabbat. He said, but he wasn't so keeping. But his father was a well attending the Bet Knesset. What happened? So he goes, his father one day he passed away. And at the Shiva home, the rabbi of the shul, he came to visit the son who was a truck driver. And he told him, he goes, listen, he goes, you have to say Kaddish. Your father passed away, you have to say Kaddish for the full year. You have to say Kaddish for 3 times a day. He says, Rabbi, it's impossible for me to say Kaddish. Impossible. He goes, the fact that I'm a truck driver, he goes, I drive everywhere. He goes, I don't have nights. I don't sleep at night. I drive at night because during traffic during the day. He goes, I'm traveling all the time. He goes, sometimes even when I'm driving, that's when I'm putting on my tefillin. Because one time I saw a documentary. I forgot what it was. I think I was in school. And the documentary said the dangers of traveling late at night. The danger of driving, late at night, people fall asleep at the wheel, etc. I think it was trying to deter guys who just got their license from driving too late at night. So anyway, they took a interview of a truck driver, and the truck driver says that because he drives throughout the night, sometimes he gets exhausted, so he stopped what's called the truck stop. There's hundreds of trucks over there. He says that it's so dangerous to sleep in your truck at night. Some truck drivers, they have a whole system on how they lock their doors of the truck. They have to tie the belt of their seatbelt tied to the doors of each one of their trucks. They have to put special material on the windows. So anybody could come random at night, break open the truck, steal all the merchandise that's inside, and you're sleeping there. Imagine that. You're sleeping there, and all of a sudden in the middle of the night, some guy with some psycho in the middle of Wyoming wants to rob your truck. You have no protection. Therefore, these guys, since they're traveling all around the world, you have to be very careful about how they travel. And since they're sleeping in their trucks, there's a whole system, how they set up, and it's very dangerous to drive. Says the truck driver, goes, listen, he goes, what do you want from me, Rabbi? He goes, I cannot say Kaddish 3 times a day because the bottom line is that I'm too busy driving my truck. So he says, well, in that case, you have to hire somebody. He goes, hiring somebody. He goes, how am I supposed to hire somebody? He goes, B'ezrat Hashem, pray for it. Hashem will send you Siyata Dishmaya. He goes, okay, fine. Meanwhile, what happens? He tells a story over here that there were 4 guys, 4 abrichim from Bnei Brak, very, very poor guys. They decided one day, we need to pray for our parnasah. So what do? They decided to pack in one guy's car. They're going to drive where? To the city of Meron. They're going to go to the Kefa of Rashbi, pray for their parnasah. Okay, fine. So they get in one of the guy's cars. It was like mamash, like one of those it wasn't a Bentley. Put it that way. In Israel, I think the nicest car you could get is like a Mazda Shish. In Israel, you have a Mazda Shish. Forget about it. You're the man. When I was living in Israel for 5 years, I drove a Mazda Hamish. That's like a Mazda. That's a van. They don't make it anymore. Forget about it. So that was my car. I bought it for 20,000 shekel. I was afraid to take that car anywhere further than outside of Yerushalayim. That's how afraid I was. I was afraid the car would break down at any minute. I only drove it in Yerushalayim. You want to take a family trip? We're taking a taxi. But more than that, I wouldn't take. So this guy, all the Avrechim, they choose one of the guys. They all pack inside the car. Let's go. We're going to Meron. So they took the hats and jackets. Avrechim, they wear hats and jackets. They took it off. They put it inside the trunk of the car. And as they're driving on the way there, it's like a 3-hour drive from Yerushalayim. They stopped at one of the local gas stations to get a drink. And as they're there, one of the guys opened up the trunk to get something, and he didn't notice, but as he was getting something out of the trunk, he knocked down one of the guy's hats. It fell out of the trunk, he didn't notice that it fell. They shut the door, and they begin driving. They get to Meron, and the guy gets out of the car. He's like, "Where's my hat? Where's my hat? It must have fell out of the truck stop." He got all upset. He goes, "Man, what are you doing to me over here?" And he goes, most guys that could afford it, you have a weekday hat, you have a Shabbat hat. So most guys say, "Okay, listen, I lost my weekday hat, not such a big deal, right? Because I always have my Shabbat hat to wear." Because this guy, he was the most broke out of all of them. The guy was barely making 500 shekel a month. He was the most broke. Why are you doing this to me? On top of that, I don't have much money. I came to Meron to pray for my parnasah, and all the more so, I lost my hat. There's some shitot that say that a person wears a hat when he prays, and he forgets his hat at home. You got to go back and get it. And if you're gonna miss Minyan because of it, it's okay. It's okay. If a guy always prays with his hat on, let him pray b'hidut, let him pray by himself rather than pray with the Minyan. Okay, listen, it's an inyan of kavod.
No, 1,000 years ago, there were no hats.
There's an inyan of kavod. It became that way. The generation has changed. So therefore, if you're the type of guy to always wear your hat, and all of a sudden you don't have it one day, go back home and get it. If you miss Minyan, you miss Minyan. It's very important to have your hat on. So therefore, this guy is saying, "Hashem, listen, I lost my hat. I don't know what to do now. I came to Meron." And he's kind of down. But he's like, "You know what? If this is what Hashem wants, this is what Hashem wants." And he brings that, Rabbi Yonah says that when Am Yisrael accept Yisurim, I'll read you the Lashon inside. He goes, Rabbi Yonah Kotev, B'Sha'ari Teshuvah, Shechad HaDavrim, Sha'akadosh Baruch Hu Ohev. One of the things that Hashem loves, Hu Ha'adam She'yodeh Lekabel Yisurim Ba'ahava. Hashem loves the guy that accepts Isurim Ba'ahava. If you could accept punishment Ba'ahava, Hashem loves that guy more than anybody. That's one of the reasons why the Jewish people were compared to Yonah, to a pigeon. Why were we compared to a pigeon? Because if you ever notice, when a person is slaughtering the pigeon, what happens? The pigeon, most animals, they run away when it comes to slaughtering. The pigeon himself, he actually sticks out his neck like this. Because that's the pigeon who, like he says it inside, he goes, Mishum, Kishe'em Sheyonah pushetet et tzabara l'shchita, just like a Yonah, he sticks his neck out when it comes to the shechita, and he says, it's okay, shecht me, v'lo mitaneh, he doesn't fight you. Kach gam shiba'im ayisel yisurim otzachot, when we have pain, when we have punishment, but you accept it, hein mikablim otam be'ahava, just like the Yonah. So therefore he says the inyan like that. And for this avrech, he accepted be'ahava. What happens? This truck driver that was looking for an avrech to say kaddish for him, for his father, he's like I said, he's a truck driver. He's stopping by one of the stops, and he notices, huh? No, that's just a story that I made up. That's just an example that I gave. Baba, who about it? All of a sudden, he sees the hat on the floor. So he's a nice guy. He's a Jewish guy. Most people, they have their name and their phone number imprinted on the back of the hat. So he takes the hat. He makes the phone call. He goes, listen. He goes, I found your hat over here by the gas station. He goes, did you lose your hat? He goes, yes, I lost my hat. He goes, where are you now? He goes, I'm in Meron. He goes, where do you live? He goes, I live in Bnei Brak. He goes, listen, he goes, I'm a truck driver. He goes, I drive around all over Israel. He goes, I'm going to be in Bnei Brak later today. If you want to meet me there in the afternoon, meet me there in the afternoon. There's a famous spot in Bnei Brak. It's called the Pepsi Cola. Tell you that. The Pepsi Cola building in Bnei Brak. He goes, meet me by the meet me by the Coca-Cola. Meet me by the Coca. Yeah, exactly. Very good. Meet me by the Coca. Very good. Meet me by the Coca-Cola building. He goes, I'll give you your hat. Okay, fine. So he meets him there. He gives him his hat. Cold over your fair. And he says, you know what? He goes, you did me solid. You returned my hat. He goes, what can I do for you? He goes, to be honest, he says, I'm looking for somebody to say kaddish for my father. So he tells them, he goes, okay, fine. He goes, I'll do it for you. He goes, how much do you charge? He goes, I don't want to take anything. He goes, you did me a chesed. He goes, I'll do you a chesed in return. So he says, no. He goes, no. He goes, this is for my father. He goes, for my father. He goes, I want to pay you for it. I don't want to cheapen it. He goes, does 1,500 shekel a month sound good? Now 1,500 shekel is around $375. I know it might not sound a lot of money to anybody here, but if for an avrech that's only making 500 shekel a month, because the guy's barely making $125 a month. He goes, for this to add $375, 1,500 shekel. He goes, forget about it. The story goes, he offers him the money. He says, He does, מה תשלום שאתה רוצה על זה? He goes, well, how much money you want in this? He goes, תן לי כמה שאתה חושב, give me whatever you want. עשית איתי חסד, גם אני אעשה לך חסד. He goes, you did it for me חסד, I'll do for you חסד. מכיוון שזה לעילוי נשמת אבי, so because this is for my father, אני רוצה שזה יהיה באופן מסודר ולא כחסד. I want it to be right, I don't want it to be חסד. אם אתן לך 1,500 שקל בכל חודש, זה בסדר? ו-1,500 שקל a month, that's gonna be enough. זה יותר מבסדר, he tells him. הנהג הוציא פנקס צ'קים, יש לך צ'קים לכל השנה. אמר, רשם ל12 צ'קים. לאחר מעשה אמר האברך, באותו זמן שאיבדתי את הכובע, he goes, that time that I lost my hat, ישבתי ושאלתי, I sat down and I asked, ריבונו של עולם, אני הדלפון מכולם, because I'm the poorest guy out of all these guys, נוסע למירון כדי שיתפלל, ודווקא הכובע שלי נאבד, כשאין לי כובע נוסף לשבת, וזה הכובע היחיד שלי. למה אתה עושה לי כזה? Why are you doing this to me? It's my only hat. Nobody else lost that. I'm the poorest out of everybody. ומה האמת? ריבונו של עולם יושב בשמיים וצוחק. השם is in שמיים and he's laughing. בני יקרי, goes, my dear son, אני מסדר לך כתוספת של 1,500 שקל לחודש. I'm trying to make sure that you get an extra 1,500 שקל per month. ובנוסף שיהיה עילוי נשמה ליהודי שבנו לא מסוגל לומר אחריו קדיש. And at the same time, I'm trying to give somebody else whose son cannot say Kaddish, I'm trying to make sure that his neshama has an aliyah, but you say Kaddish for him. האברך החליט שאם הוא דואג לעילוי נשמת אביו של הנהג, אז יעשה זאת עד הסוף. The Rabbi said to himself, if I'm already taking care of this guy's memory, let me do it until the end. והוסיף גם לימוד משניות. He goes, I'm also going to say Kaddish, I'm also going to say משניות. Says Rabbi Al-Karif, he goes, what do we learn from this story? He goes, בהשני, כל אדם צריך לעשות מאמץ. Everybody has to make sure שלא לקבל דברים בדרך של זכות ובכך לבזבז את זכויות המועטות שבידיו. Everybody has to try to gain things not by using זכויות. Because if we use זכויות, first of all, we don't know how much זכות we have. And second of all, if you do use your זכות, he goes, we have so little of them, he goes, they're just going to be used up in a flash. Therefore he says, you should try to always make sure that you get what you want, do it naturally. Hashem will already give the bracha. קח אותו אברך הדחוק בפרנסתו, נסע למירון, עשה את כל ההשתדלות שלו. This guy, he said, listen, I'm poor, I'm broke. Therefore I have to do what's my responsibility. I can't just sit at home and say, Hashem, listen, I've learned Gemara my whole life, I've read Tehillim backwards all my life, I've done all the zechuyot, please give me back. You shouldn't do that. We don't know how much zechut we have. Rather, you should rely on natural occurrences. If you pray, Hashem will give it towards you. From a side that you never even expected it. Therefore, it's our responsibility that when we want something, it's our job to get it not b'derech hazuchoyot, but derech hateva. Therefore, when a person has a question, where do I open up my store? Do I open it up in the boondocks where no customers are, or to open up in the Mirkaz of the city, even though it's going to cost me a lot more? He says, open up in the city, what's going to cost you a lot more, because that's derech hateva. Mashenki b'midbar, when there's nobody there, he says, that is a much better way to do that. Is that clear? Okay, fine. It's just an introduction, by the way. I just wanted to read that story.
At the same time, sometimes Chachamim say that we're only obligated to do a little bit of hishtadlut. You should have complete emunah in Hashem.
Emunah is fine, and you're supposed to have emunah, but not zuchuyot. There's a big difference between having emunah and relying on your zuchut. The person can't come along and say, Hashem, listen, look how much good I've done in my life. Therefore, I want payment right now. You shouldn't do that, because we don't know how much good we've done. We don't know how much was the Shem Shamayim, how much was Shalem, how much is this, how much is that. We don't know all these things. Therefore, don't rely on zuhud. Rather, try to get everything b'derech hateva. So that's just an introduction. What I really came to say was a question that I had. If you notice in this week's parasha, like I just told you, we lost the Be'er Miriam. It completely disappeared. Why did we lose it? Because Miriam passed away. But eventually, the Gemara says that all three, after Aaron HaKohen died, we lost Aneneh Kavod. After Miriam died, we lost Be'er Miriam. However, the Gemara says that both of those things, they came back b'zechut who? B'zechut Moshe Rabbeinu. Everything we got back b'zechut Moshe Rabbeinu. And after that happened, the pasuk clearly tells us. I will read the pasukim inside in 1 second. The pasuk comes from this Perek Chaf Aleph, pasuk Yud Daled. It says that after we lost it, it says that we gained it back. It says over here, "Umisham be'erahi habe'era she'amar Hashem leMoshe esop et ha'am ve'eteneh lahem mayim." We got it back, and then after we get it back, the pasuk says, "Az yashir Yisrael et hashira hazot ali be'er anu la." We sang a song, and that song was Az Yashir Yisrael, just like we started off by the Az Yashir Moshe, and the song was Ali Be'er Anula, rise, O well. bring forth your water. So we sang a song after we got back to the Be'er. The question I had, which is the question of Orach HaKadosh. I'll give you his question, then I'll read his answer second. His question is, well, I don't understand. So you're telling me that what? You're telling me that they sang Shira after they got back to the Be'er. How come we didn't sing Shira after we got back on Enei HaKavod? How come it's only specifically by the fact that what returned specifically, only the Be'er Shem Riyam, but nothing else did we sing Shira for? Is that a solid question? His word Orach HaKadosh says, Az Asher Yisrael Tzarich Ledat, he says, Shira zu mativa. What was the point of singing this song? Gam lama lo amru Shira al Aman, Kimo she'amru Shira al Aman. How come we didn't sing Shira on the man when it came back after, I guess, he says the man? When did we lose the man? Oh, I guess after we complained. After we complained, God took away the man. He gave us the slav, right? That was last week, but we lost it, and Hashem gave it back to us. So we didn't sing Shira when the man came back. We didn't sing Shira after Anei HaKavod came back. So why are we singing Shira Dafka after the Be'er Miriam comes back? Huh? Okay, maybe. Gam kol parasha tzricha biur, because the entire parasha needs explanation. Why in the world did we sing specific Shira after we got back to the Be'er, not after we got back anything else? That's the question of the Orach HaKadosh. The question clear? Yes. So I'm going to bring to you two answers. Nothing deep. There's not too much Kabbalah over here. The first answer is what Rashi says. Rashi says, Be'emet, this is not talking about anything that has to do with Be'er Miriam. Rashi brings a fantastic story that happened in the Midrash Tanchuma. He brings a fantastic story that happened in the Tanchuma, which we don't know the Pesukim. What happened? I'll read you Rashi inside in a second, but this is a fascinating story. Not many people know the story. What happened? As the Jewish people were traveling through the desert, right before they entered Eretz Israel, apparently in the entrance of Eretz Israel, there were two mountains that were right next to each other. There was one mountain on the side of Israel, and one mountain on the side of, the Moabi nation. And a very, very thin passageway in between. The mountains were right next to each other, where if you were on one side of the mountain and your friend was on the other side of the mountain, you were able to call out each other and you had a conversation. That's how close the mountains were together. And in between these two mountains was a very deep valley, but you were able to travel from within these two mountains. And the derech to get to Eretz Israel was in between these two mountains. What happened? The Moabi nation, they had a great plan. They said, listen, we know the travel plans of the Jewish people. We know they're going to go through this very, very deep valley. We know the mountains are right on top of each other. Therefore, their plan was to stand in the cracks and crevices of that mountain and wait in ambush as the Jewish people are climbing through. And as the Jewish people are going through these mountains, they were going to stand there with bows and arrows. They're going to stand there with huge boulders of rocks. And as they're passing through, all they got to do is take it and throw it on the Jews, and it was going to be a mass genocide, kill out the entire nation in one mission. That was the plan of the Moabi people. What happened? Hashem made a miracle. What was the miracle Hashem made? See, on the side of Eretz Israel, they had the mountain that was inside of the land of Israel. There were these like protruding rocks that were coming out of the mountain. And the mountain that was on the other side, it had the perfect amount of holes that fit exactly on the protrusions that the other mountain had. So you had these Moabi people. They're standing in the holes of this mountain. They're waiting as the Jewish people pass. They're going to ambush them. And all of a sudden, miracle of miracles, God caused it that the mountain on the side of Eretz Israel, it uprooted its spot and began to move closer to the mountain on the side of the Moabi people. And all of a sudden, the protrusions from the side of Eretz Israel, it fit perfectly where the holes of the Moabi people were hiding, and it completely crushed and pulverized the people that were waiting there on the ambush of the Jewish people. And it completely crushed them. And all of a sudden, as they crushed them, the blood of the Moab people began flowing, and the crushed bones and the limbs and the skulls and the brain matter, and everything was flowing. And the Jewish people, they had no idea that a miracle even happened to them. They had no idea that there was an ambush. All of a sudden, what happens? All of a sudden, as the blood is flowing, this be'er, this well that we're talking about, it began to overflow the bones and the limbs and the blood of all the Moabi people. And only once Bnei Yisrael noticed what kind of miracle that just happened to them, on that they sang Shira. Tremendous miracle. They had no idea they were in trouble, and almost at the last moment, Hashem saved them. Rashi says, and I'll read you his words inside, it's fascinating Rashi. Rashi says, his Targum El Shefech Eshet. It calls one of the spots over here, it calls them the Eshet HaNechalim. That's what the Pasuk says, it calls the spot they were in. And says Rashi that the Targum Unkulos calls the word Eshet, it calls it Shefech. Which Shefech? Shefech Milashon Shafach. Pouring. Pouring of what? Pouring of blood. Says Rashi, Shefa nechalim shenishpach sham dam hamoraim. The Amori people, all the blood was spilled. Shayu nichbaim sham. They were hiding over there. Levi shayu harim givuhim. V'hanachal amok v'katzar v'harim simuchim zelazeh. Like I just explained to you, two mountains one next to each other, very, very deep valley, and a passageway that was right through. Adam omer al har mizeh. One person standing on one side of the mountain. Umedaberim haviro behar hazeh. He's able to talk to his friend on the other side of the mountain. Means to say they were very close to each other. In order to get past, there is a passageway. Amor Emoraim. So the Emori people, they said, Kishnichnasu Yisrael Eretz Yisrael, when the Jewish people, they entering the land of Israel, they need to pass by this Nachal. Let's come out of the caves that are inside this mountain. Let's kill them with bows and arrows and massive rocks. Let's just throw it on top of them. They were inside these holes on the side of Moab. And the side of Eretz Yisrael, you had these horns that were sticking out of that mountain. When the Jewish people came to cross the river, to cross the mountains, the mountain of Eretz Yisrael began to shake. Like a maidservant that when her master comes back from work, she's shaking to greet him. Therefore she shakes, but she comes to greet the master. Says Rashi, all of a sudden that side came in perfect fit. Whatever side it was, Eretz Yisrael, those pieces went inside the Moab, and it completely killed them. And therefore it kind of stayed them to all the Moabi people, they all died. Says Rashi, Misham ba heshed el be'er ketzad. What happened? Says Rashi, Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, Hashem asked, Mi modir lebenai hanisim halalu. See, the Jewish people, again, they had no idea they were about to get killed. Therefore says Hashem, who's going to let my children know what kind of peril situation they were in? Who's going to tell them? Who's going to allow them to recognize the fact that I just saved them? Hamashal Omer, the Mashal says, Natata pag letinok hodil le'imo. You gave a piece of candy to somebody's kid. Who's going to let the parents of this kid know that you gave him a piece of candy? Who's going to know? He's going to see his kid chewing a candy. The parents are going to say, oh, thank you for giving my son something to eat, but he has no idea who gave him the candy. How is the son going to, unless you write your name on the piece of bread, listen, gift from so-and-so, who's going to know? It's like sending Mishloach Manot without any name on it. I hate when people do that. They send Mishloach Manot, They don't say who it's from. How are you going to know who to thank? I don't know who to send text message. You have no idea. So therefore, who's going to let my children know that I made such a tremendous miracle for them? Says Rashi, after the Jewish people, they're about to pass, the mountains went back, so that no other miracle happened to them. This bear that we're talking about, it brought up all the bones and all the brain matter of all the Emoraim that just died. On this, the Jewish people, they saw and they sang Shira. Therefore, it's a tremendous miracle, that fact that we didn't know what happened, but Hashem, on the same time, in order to prove it that this happened, that was the Shir that we said. This was the tremendous miracle, the song that we sing. So therefore, going back to answer the Or Chaim HaGadol's question, he asked, I don't understand, why Dafka on the Be'er did we sing? The answer is, it's not talking about the Be'er of Miriam like we thought originally. It's talking about a Be'er, a well that brought up the bones and all the dead bodies of the Amorim that were waiting to kill us, and we had no idea about it. Therefore, the lesson is, Rabutai, the rabbis say, that sometimes we don't realize the amount of miracles that Hashem performs on our behalf. We have no idea. We have no idea of what daily miracles that Hashem causes. I think I read a news article that before IDF bombed the nuclear bases in Iran, before that happened, the plan of Iran was they were going to send over 1,000 missiles a day in order to completely overwhelm the Iron Dome missile interception system, and by doing that they would have killed millions of people. We have no idea. We have no idea that actually happened. We only know it after they put a gag order and after they open up. Then we know what kind of miracles Hashem performed. But we have no idea. And therefore he says the Rabbi over here, it's our responsibility to thank Hashem for we only find out about miracles that happen only after something bad happens. Only after the terrorist attack happens, then we say, oh wow, listen, it could have been worse, but only after it happens then we know. But sometimes you don't hear about sometimes when the terrorist from Gaza, he's preparing a bomb in his garage, and all of a sudden he hits the wrong button and his entire house blows up. We don't hear about that. We don't hear about that big Hashem made a miracle, but he saved us. We had no idea. Similar to next week's parasha, when it comes to Balak and Bilam, we had no idea that Bilam was standing on top of the mountain and was able to curse just by saying one word, and the entire nation would have been wiped out. When did we find out? Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know about it. When did Moshe Rabbeinu find out? When he was dictating the Torah, when Hashem was telling him, listen, you write this, and also he's telling him about this whole episode of Bilam and Balak. Moshe said, when did this happen? He goes, yeah, this is what I do for you on a daily basis. Every single day, Hashem performs miracles on our behalf, and we have no idea. Therefore, he says it's our responsibility to sometimes, in the Barachad Modim, when we're thinking about everything that we're thankful, also thank Hashem for the miracles that we don't know about. Because that, within it, that's really recognizing Hashem's greatness, and therefore it's our responsibility. Just like we had no idea that Hashem saved us from this possible tragic moment that could happen in Am Yisrael, and Hashem had to prove it to us by breaking up the bone matter and everything that came up from the Be'er. On that, we sing Shira. That's our responsibility to every single time something bad like this happens, or we don't know about something bad that could possibly happen, it's our responsibility to sing Shira. Okay, that is one answer. I think it's a phenomenal answer about why Dafka the Be'er and not anything else. Orim HaKadosh, second answer, this we're going to end. He says as follows. He says that the truth is, this Be'er that we're talking about, it wasn't really Be'er. I mean, it was Be'er, but Be'er is also a mashal, it's a metaphor. What does the Be'er represent? What does water represent? Exactly, 100%. Like we say, Ein Ma'im Ela Torah. And therefore it says that the truth is that when the Jewish people, when we got the Torah at Har Sinai 40 years prior to this, no one sang a song. No one sang a song. And it's funny because on Simchat Torah we come every single year. What do we sing? When we got the Torah in Har Sinai, no one sang anything. Therefore, says the Ruach HaKadosh. Therefore, in order to make up for the fact that we didn't sing Shira when we got the Torah in Har Sinai, now after we lost the Be'er, after Miriam died and they came back, now we sang Shira. Now we sang song. I read you his lashon inside. He says, "Ve'efshar." Ki Shira zu al Torah amuraha. They said it specifically on the Torah. Ubazeh gam kelo nikra tegel haradur hahu. On the previous generation that accepted the Torah in Har Sinai, lama lo shararu shira adasha. Why didn't they not sing a song? Kishnitra lehem Torah, when the Torah was originally given to them. Morosha shelah na'abat tehillah. Ki vadai hi zot shirat Torah sheneket be'er mayim. The Torah is always compared to mayim. Sheneket be'er al shem hamakor sheshechinai liyah sheneket be'er. The reason why we sing Shira now, because Torah is always compared to Shira, is always compared to Mayim. Like I said, Ein Mayim El Torah. Therefore, we decided to sneak in. Now, what's the question of Rahim HaKadosh? Why specifically now? Imagine a person gets married, and after 40 years of being married, he walks inside his house, he begins shooting. Begins Yisma Hatarim. What are you doing? He goes, oh, you remember on our wedding day, I didn't sing it, therefore I'm singing it now. So I get it, you're trying to make up for the fact, but at the same time, why now specifically? Why are you trying to make up for the fact that you didn't sing Shira on your wedding day? What does it help to sing it after the Be'er returns? You understand the question? It's funny, but
no shadows.
Exactly, 100%. It doesn't seem like it's connected. So Rabbi tells us as follows. Our rabbis tell us that this Be'er that we're talking about, there were two tremendous miracles that happened with the Be'er on a daily basis. The Be'er was extremely medicinal. Anybody that drinks from the Be'er, you were healed right away. Any ailment that you had, you drink from the Be'er, it was like a complete refuah shlema. In fact, there's a fascinating Ramah in the Hilchot of Havdalah. You know this Ramah? Ramah says that every single Motzei Shabbat, a person should try to go out and draw waters from the Be'er. Draw waters from the well that you have in your neighborhood. If you have a bottle of water, open up a bottle of water and drink a bottle of water on Motzei Shabbat Kodesh, right after Havdalah. Why? He says, because it could be that this Be'er Miriam that we're talking about, it's still around. Maybe. And it goes around from place to place. And it could be that the water that you're going to drink is coming from where? Be'er Miriam. You might get lucky, you might hit the lottery. And therefore, by hitting the lottery, what does that mean? That means you're drinking from the Be'er Miriam. The moment you drink it, you have a complete refuah shlema. I'll read you the word the Ramah inside. It says the Ramah, Yesh omrim, diledlot mayim b'chol motzei Shabbat. Drink water on Motzei Shabbat. Why? Ki be'era shel Miriam sovev kol Motzei Shabbat kol aberot u'mish shepokeh bo. If you get it, v'yishte mimena, and you drink from it, yitrapeh mekol tachaluav. Have a refuah shlema, complete. Therefore, we see from here that the Be'er Miriam it had tremendous medicinal purposes. But that's one miracle that happened. The second miracle that it has is that by drinking from the Be'er Miriam, it gave you tremendous wisdom. Rabbi, have you ever asked yourself a question? How did the daughter of the Midbar, how did the generation of the Midbar, how did they remember everything? You had a teacher, you had Moshe Rabbeinu, a tremendous teacher. He taught the Torah for 40 years in the Midbar, but they couldn't write anything down. Torah Shabbat Pei, not allowed to write down. So how could it be that the entire generation, they remembered everything that were taught to them? Or every single guy was Chacham Obadiah. Every single guy had a tremendous photographic memory. How is it that all the generation of the God, how did they remember all the Torah was being told to them? What's the answer? The answer is because they drank from the Be'er Miriam. The Be'er Miriam gave them a tremendous insight, a tremendous brain, that the moment they heard something, they remembered it forever. Roman, you just quoted the story of the fact that it was in the Kinneret. What's that story? Anybody know that's such a tremendous story?
Arizal.
Yeah, the story goes that the Arizal, he had many students, the Arizal, many students, but his prize student is who? Chaim Vital. He wrote on the student that I had many students, but only trust what Chaim Vital writes in my name. Everything else he goes, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but when it comes from Chaim Vital, you can trust it. What's the who? Yeah, and Arizal was much younger. And also, all the Torah they taught from him was only happening in 2 years, by the way. In only 2 years, he learned all the Torah, and he taught it to him in a very short amount of time. Anyway, so the legend goes is that when he found his student, he decided to teach him all the Torah that he had. And he goes, he taught him everything in one day. He taught him all the Torah, what is in one day, and then when he came back to the next day to teach him more, Chaim Vital told him, he goes, Rabbi, you have to slow down. He goes, I can't understand everything you're telling me. He goes, every single day, it's going to be like this. You're going to tell me, we have to make Hazara, what is Oseh Shalom, every single day, Oseh Shalom, I have to remind you. He goes, no, Pashu, you're giving me so much that, sometimes you have it when the baby is nursing from the mother, sometimes the milk is coming out too fast. And the baby doesn't have time to swallow, and the milk is already overflowing. That's what he told him. He goes, the Torah is coming out too much, my brain is not processing fast enough. He goes, come with me. He takes him on a boat. They go in the Kinneret, and all of a sudden, as they're traveling in the Kinneret, Arizal says, stop your rowing. He goes, take a cup, take a scoop from the Kinneret and drink the water. He goes, what is this? He goes, over here, this is what Be'er Miriam is. Right here, right in this spot, that's where the Be'er is. And if you drink it, you got tremendous wisdom. Says Chaim Vital, the moment I drink from the Kinneret in that spot, he goes, everything that Arizal told him, he goes, I swallowed it, and I keep on going. Yeah, I had tremendous wisdom. That's what they said. That's why he said. There you go. Because but the Be'er itself, you're able to have tremendous memory just from that drinking of the water itself. So that's why he says that it's no coincidence that these two have an integral connection, right? You have the medicinal purposes. You also have the tremendous water, the wisdom. He says that's why it's no coincidence. If you remember in Parashat Bishalach, right? What happens after the Jewish people crossed the sea? What happened? We didn't have any water to drink. What happens? So Moshe Rabbeinu took that sweet stick, threw it inside, and the waters became sweet. And right after he does that, the Torah tells us, they walked 3 days in the desert, they didn't find water. They came to a place called Marata, because the water is very bitter. So they complained, what are we going to drink? So they cried out to God, so they threw it inside and it became sweet. Right after it became sweet, what does it say? Sham sam lo chok u'mishpat v'sham nasahu. Right after they drank, what happened? Sham sam chok u'mishpat. They returned to learning what? Halacha. What's the connection? What's the connection of them drinking water and learning Torah afterwards? What's the answer? The answer is that this bitter waters wasn't referring to physical waters. This bitter water is referring to Torah. At the moment that they left Yam Suf after it split, for whatever reason, which we're not getting into, they couldn't understand Torah. That's why the place is called Mara. Mara means because when a person can't understand Torah, for him, the Torah becomes very, very bitter. When you don't understand what the rabbi is talking about, it's bitter to you. You don't want to be here. You want to get, but you want to leave. Therefore, when the place is called Mara, the reason why it's called Mara is because they didn't understand the Torah was given to them. All of a sudden, at this moment, Moshe Rabbeinu, he does something. It sweetens the Torah. Right after they drink the Torah, everything here is a metaphor. It's not really referring to. When you have to look at Be'er Miriam, you can't look at it as H2O. You can't look at it as physical water. The entire thing is a mashal. The Torah it's really water is Torah. The whole thing is connected, and therefore it's our job. He says that in mind el Torah. Therefore, this that we're talking about, they weren't specifically singing on the return. Go back to answer Rahim those questions. His question is, why are they singing Shira Dafka now on the Be'er Miriam? They weren't singing on the return of water. They're singing on the return of Torah. That's what they're singing on. Now it makes sense. Because when they originally sang, we asked the question, why are they singing now? Why didn't you sing 40 years ago? The answer is because Because when they lost it, when they lost the Be'er after Miriam died, all of a sudden, all the Torah that they were learning, they couldn't understand, they couldn't retain it. All of a sudden, after it came back, B'zchut Moshe, now they said to themselves, we're not celebrating the fact that we're returning water. We're celebrating the fact that we're returning of the Torah. Now that finally we can understand the Torah is back in our midst. That's what they were thinking, because originally they lost it. After they lost it, they said to themselves, now we can't learn anymore. But after they got it back, they said, now that we got it back, now you're right. Now we have something physical to drink, but now we have also the spiritual, the benefits that we get from learning Torah. Now we get that benefit also. I think the lesson is, Rabotai, and with this we're going to end, is that in life, a person goes through these ups and downs. And sometimes he thinks to himself that he's thirsty. He's thirsty, but the thirsty is really, it's a metaphor. He feels that something is missing in his life. And therefore, obviously I don't have to tell anybody here because you came to the class for a reason, but sometimes people outside of the class, they think to themselves when they have like a midlife crisis and they think they're going through something, they think that buying something expensive, sometimes it's going to fill the void. But the truth is it doesn't. When you have a void in your life, the void is not from buying fancy cars or buying fancy clothing. The void is because you're not learning. When a person is thirsty, they tell him when a person is thirsty, go drink water. Well, what's Peshat? Go drink water because it's a metaphoric water. Go learn Torah. Because when they realize that the more they learn, the more it fills that void in their life that they feel like it's missing. And therefore it's our responsibility to sometimes to make sure that other people, they're also learning. Yes, it's very difficult, but it's your job. It's your job sometimes to pull a person to the class. Your job sometimes to buy a person a book. I think Rabbi Messer tells a story at one time that somebody in Panama, you know the story? He said one time a guy in Panama, he was a religious guy, but he never really learned. He goes, what happened? He goes, he decided that somebody else decided to buy him a book, a set of book of Maim Loez. We have it right there. Maim Loez in Spanish or in English, whatever it was. He goes, he didn't really learn. He goes, one night he said he couldn't fall asleep, and instead of reading whatever it is, Golf Digest, he pulls out. He goes, I wonder what my friend got me over. He was sitting on his shelf for months. He never touched it. All of a sudden, he pulls out one sefer of Maim Loez. Because the moment he began to read it, he said he couldn't put it down. He goes, that night he went to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning because he was reading Maim Loez throughout the night. He goes, the book changed his life. Because sometimes, that is our responsibility. Our responsibility is just to kind of ignite the soul, to ignite the whatever it is. But if you know somebody that's not learning, buy him a book. Buy him a book that he could stick to. 1 page a day, whatever it is, a small regiment of learning, because you never know how much. I heard from Rabbi Mizrahi today, Dafka. He says that the Zohar HaKadosh writes that anybody does kiruv to somebody else. If you're a rabbi, or if you bought a book from somebody, or you pulled them to a class and that class changed his life, whatever it was, he goes, there's no Gehenna for that guy. Why there's no Gehenna for that guy? He goes, because it's not fair. Imagine that you made somebody else religious, but you yourself, you're not so strong. But whatever, you had zechut, you made the other guy religious. And now the other guy, because he became religious, after he dies at 40 years old, where's he going, that guy? The guy that you made religious, where's he going? He's going to Gan Eden because he turned his life around. He goes, but you who made him religious, you weren't so great, therefore where are you going? You're going to Gehenna. So the Zohar HaKadosh is not fair. It's not fair that the guy you made religious goes to Gan Eden, and you're going to Gehenna. Therefore, he says that making somebody else religious, it's a guarantee, he says, that you go to straight to Gan Eden. He gets rid of Gehenna completely. Lama, because since you turn somebody else's life around, it's not fair that guy goes to Gan Eden and you don't. Therefore, says the Zohar HaKadosh that when a person is osek in outreach, whether you are a rabbi or whether you go out and you try to pull a person to a class, or kiruv, or you buy a person a book, or you try your best to make sure that people around you are doing the best that they can when it comes to a religious career. God says that guy there's no chance. He gets rid of the din of Gehenna completely, because it's not fair that the guy he made religious goes to Gan Eden and you don't. Therefore, it's our responsibility, he says. Therefore, Maim is specifically Ein Maim El Torah. When you see that a person is thirsty, he's not physically thirsty, he's metaphorically thirsty. It's just a mashal. Therefore, it's our responsibility to give him the drink, not drinking water physical, but drinking water spiritual. Wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom. Zaku Baruch Shalom.